views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. We've had more than a month straight of programs on Bronx politics, so I thought tonight we would change it up a little bit and get back to focusing on Bronx communities. So tonight we'll focus on Bronx Community Board 6, where there are some wonderful developments going on in the arts and housing, and in attempts to establish a literal and practical answer to the theory that it takes a village. For those who don't know, CB6 includes the Bronx neighborhoods of Belmont, Bathgate, and East Tremont and West Farms. It is my pleasure to welcome the District Manager of Community Board 6, my friend John Sanchez. Nice to have you with us, John.
Thanks for having me.
And John brought along a board member, Laura James. She is with us as well. She is also an artist who has a great tale to tell tonight about the rejuvenation of one of the Bronx's best-loved art centers and a whole lot more. So thank you both for joining us tonight. John, let's start with you. I find that when I, for example, look at the Community Board 6 website, there's a nice energy, there's a nice rejuvenation. Talk to me, I guess, about what it takes to get to the point where you become the district manager and you collectively with the board are able to influence things so you can move things along toward positive change.
I think Laura is a part of that. Our board had 15 new board members this session, which is great. We had the smallest board when I started the job a year ago. And from day one, I knew that we needed more people on the board to support what we're trying to do. Our neighborhood has been underserved for years, and it takes new energy, new ideas to get things done in our neighborhood.
It takes a village, as Gary quoted
right.
somebody else who said. The process of bringing board members on. You say, well, wait a minute, okay, we'll bring more board members on, but you need people who are willing to work, people who care about the community, people who have knowledge of community. How difficult was it to put that all together?
I approached outreach very simply. Went to community centers, went to organizations like the Bronx River Arts Center, went to churches, spoke at churches about what the community board can do, and people applied. We had the most applications to join our board than we've had in over a decade.
Wow. Learning curve for people on the board, like what they need to do, what they need to know?
It's very quick. Laura just attended the first meeting last week, and it's very simple. I mean, you get the hang of things. You go to the meetings, you hear the committee reports, you vote on motions. It's very straightforward. You get the hang of it after a day.
I guess there's two sides to this experience thing, and frankly, in politics, I ask this question all the time. You want people who have been around because they know the lay of the land, they know what can be done, they know how, if somebody suggests we want to build a garden or whatever it is, they know how to make it happen. On the other hand, you want new people with new ideas and all that kind of thing. Talk to me about that balance.
It's a balance you have to strike daily, but I've always been of the mindset that just because something hasn't been done in the past doesn't mean it can't happen now. For example, one of our board members had the idea for a community garden, and 3 years ago, he was kind of turned away. 3 years later, he's starting to make progress, and he is going to build that garden. So sometimes it's just not the right timing, but we feel like the timing is good for Board 6.
Then last question before we bring Laura into the conversation. What's the overall vision? Like if somebody would say to you, and the chairperson is, of course, is Wendy, and they would say, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do?
We want to have the best community board in the city of New York.
Wow. And define best for me. And by the way, I've heard that from some of your other colleagues, and so one day we'll have a little competition here, but go ahead.
I'd say community boards are responsible for land use, primarily, and also service delivery. I think if we're able to develop underutilized vacant spaces in our district, if we're able to transform vacant lots to community gardens, if we're able to transform empty parkland to rec centers, that'll be a legacy for our district to show that the city has to respond to us and that we're making change.
And I would add that if you're able to do things like that, that's how you change people's lives, and that's how you, of course, make things better. So let's start with you in terms of why the community board. Now, you told me, and John mentioned that you just had your first meeting. Why did you do that?
You know, one thing is that I like to know what's going on. And there's a lot going on in the neighborhood. Just walking around, you see these huge buildings, and you're like, what is that? Well, you know?
Who put this here?
Who put this here? But I can find out. You know, I could find out. I could go to community board meetings. I can sit there. I can hear what's going on. And then I could also join the board, which was like
Which
great.
is what you did.
Which is what I did. I was, I want to be useful in the community. And I also like the idea that it's, you know, my neighborhood. You know, it's not like the whole city or, you know, or even the whole of the Bronx. It's really this community, and you know, what can we do? You know, what can we do?
What are the issues, the standout issues for you that would make you say, well, yeah, not only do I want to know what's going on, but I certainly would like to make some change and positive change. What are the things that you look at and say, this can't be anymore?
Well, education, like you said, you know, it's a big issue in our community and actually all over the Bronx. You know, unfortunately, a lot of schools are not great, and there are a lot of young people in the Bronx and in our community. I think it's over 50% under 30 or something like this, you know, so education, jobs for people, you know, it's seeing people on the street, you know, homelessness. You know, that is a problem.
I would say in that part of the Bronx, but in many parts of the Bronx,
Sure,
we have those kinds of issues.
But we also have the Bronx Zoo. You know, we have the Botanic Garden, and now we have Bronx River Art Center coming back. So there is a lot of opportunity for change and just positive.
You know, it's interesting to me because you were here, and your entree to me through John was as an artist, and you didn't say a dearth of art programs. Where does art and that whole kind of energy fit into what you're saying, improving education, improving the economy, and even fighting homelessness?
With Bronx River Art Center in particular, so Bronx River Art Center has been under renovation for the past 6 years. The plan is to be in by November, but starting
into a new facility.
Into the
and by the way, in a little
facility.
bit, we're going to show you some pictures.
Right.
First time ever, right? Nobody's really seen,
Right.
and it's going to be just unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable, and for the neighborhood too. It's like, wow, you know, this is something that you would find in Midtown maybe. And actually, I haven't even seen a building like this. It's very impressive.
Great. We're going to impress our friends and neighbors in the Bronx in just a moment. John, let's review a couple of things that really fit right into what we've just laid out. Let's start with Tremont Park. Give me what it was and what you'd like to see it be, and then we're going to show some photos as well.
Tremont Park used to be the site of Bronx Borough Hall. For decades, in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, the Bronx Borough President's Office used to be there.
Now, we have a picture of that, if we could pop up that photograph. So go ahead, well, explain it. There it is. Now, this building still exists?
No, it was burned down in 1969. And the site where the building was...
But burned down through this horrible process of people burning down buildings in the Bronx, or just, unfortunately, it was, you know...
People burning down buildings in the Bronx.
Wow, horrible.
The building, all the offices left to the current Borough Hall, and the building was dilapidated and neglected, and then it was burned down.
And so that was at Tremont Park.
Yep.
And so what is the vision now? I know we have pictures. Folks, you can just roll some of those photos. There's a beautiful lawn and expanse. What's your vision of Tremont Park right now?
Well, the vision is not a new vision. I went to the Bronx Historical Society, and in the 60s, Community Board 6 requested a recreation center on the site. And we have that same idea. Now the Parks Department is finally responding to us.
Now this old building that we're showing right now, it's kind of that old red brick. It has that kind of, now is that still there?
That's the comfort station,
Oh,
yes. The comfort station is still there, so we want that to get redeveloped as well.
Is there money already to do that?
So the first step, the Parks Department is going to release a request for expressions of interest. This is where they'll open it up to the entire city, where if organizations have ideas on what they would like to see, what they can do, they would respond to that. If we get enough responses, then it would become an RFP. And then if people respond to that, then that'll start the process.
One of the reasons that I do these kinds of shows with community boards and neighborhood people all the time, not only to give them an opportunity to talk, but for other neighborhoods and other community boards to look and say, oh, this is possible, or this is how we do it. How difficult a process is this? And I'm going to make an assumption that it's made a little bit easier because you got new people who really want to get something done, right? Laura's going,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you well, then I'll let you answer that question.
Well, yes. Actually, I don't know how hard or easy it is.
All right, so we'll let John
I
attack
don't
it
know.
first.
But we support John because he is, he does have a vision, and we support the vision.
So how difficult is it? Because so many people in the Bronx look at facilities like that, buildings like that, and say, we want to make this. How do you do it?
It was about a 9-month process. We emailed the Parks Department saying, we realize that you don't have the budget to build a recreation center, but can you at least open it up to the public at large to see if someone does want to develop on it? And about 3 months ago, we had a meeting. It was me, Councilman Torres, and Commissioner Silva of the Parks Department.
You need an elected official who's going to partner. I mean, that would be one of the elements you've got to have.
That always helps.
Yes.
And the commissioner said he toured the park, and he didn't know what that site used to be. He said, I saw a staircase, but why is it empty? And then he said, I 100% agree with you. We're going to do the RFEI, and we're going to open it up to the public.
Have an estimate on what it might cost, or we're not even thinking about it yet?
The estimate for a recreation center is $12 million, but the RFEI is very open. We're considering things like a band shell, so there could be performances
Oh, my
during the
goodness,
summer,
how wonderful.
or even a farmer's market.
My heart just
yeah.
skipped a beat. You know,
farmer's
I'm going to tell you, this is how you develop a community. This is how you go from 62 to not 62, and you do all these other things and you invigorate. Well, if I had the money, I'd write you the check. What can I tell you? Did you want to add anything about the idea of the park or your own vision for the park, or I guess it's in sync with what we just heard?
Well, it should be utilized, you know, in the final analysis, whatever is there, it should be utilized. It shouldn't just be an empty sort of dead zone, you know, in a neighborhood that has so many people who could use it, you know?
Sure, of course. And
Right.
the need for recreation, the need for recreational space, and of course, if you're building a center of some sort, that obviously that's how we change, I believe that's how we change people's lives. All right, the next thing we have is a community garden on 181st and La Fontaine Avenue.
Yes.
Talk to me about the hopes and dreams, because right now we have a picture of it.
Yes.
It's nothing, right?
This is New York City Parks owned land.
Right.
And this is a clear-cut example of how community boards and local government can make a difference. A board member had an idea. He lives across the street in public housing.
From that spot.
From that spot. And he said, we should have a community garden here. The site's been vacant for the past 25 years. And he...
Are we taking votes? Gary's going to go yes.
Yeah.
I'll vote yes.
He applied for a grant. The community board helped him, and he was awarded $2,000 from the Citizens Committee for New York.
Great.
And after that, we told the Parks Department that we are awarded this grant. Can you give us access?
How far does $2,000 go in a project like that?
Because the community garden isn't that big, that can cover the raised beds, it can cover a lawnmower, it can cover the shovels, the rakes. It goes a long way.
It's fascinating because, you know, on one hand you say it costs $12 million for a building, but you can do something with $2 grand. And where are we at in that process to make that happen?
Right now, we're awaiting permission from the Parks Department to access the site because we want to get to work.
Hello, Parks Department? Gary calling. Could you, push it up? You know, it's one thing if you have a vacant land or, you know, whatever else and you want to build on it, maybe it's owned by somebody else or controlled by another agency. How difficult is it to get the Parks Department to say, oh, all right, you can use parkland for that?
It's easier than you would expect because there are several community gardens throughout the Bronx and throughout the city. So they've done this. They want to see that there's a track record, that there's a genuine community interest in it, and they're very willing to talk about this and trying to get community
So
gardens.
you think you're getting there?
Oh yes, the plan is to start planting in April 2018.
Laura's reaction was absolutely.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And that's because the energy is so great. Boy, did I do the right thing in bringing you guys around. Let's keep going. I love this, and I love all of us to visualize new things, better things in the Bronx. And again, this community board is really right in the center of the Bronx, right? The geographic center. Okay, so this is land. We're looking at a picture now of land behind the community board office.
Yes.
You look out your window, and this is what you currently see.
Yes.
And what are we doing with this land?
This piece of land is owned by DCAS.
What is that?
It's the Department for City Administrative Services.
Okay. And they're doing a lot with it. I love what they've done with it.
I spoke to my board chair, who's been on the board at least 40 years, and she said at least for the past 30, it's been like that.
Wow.
And that was just unacceptable to me. So I emailed DCAS, and they told us that the site is too narrow for housing. So housing can't be built there.
Okay.
A school can't be built
And
there.
in a way, that's a good thing, because
Yes.
the minute you do that, there's a lot of dialogue that has to go.
Exactly.
And school is too small for a school. All right, keep going.
So our plan is
I'm
to,
crossing those off my
Yeah.
list as I go. Okay.
we want DCAS to bring the community and the elected officials to the table so we can have a community visioning session. Because the space is so big, it could be parkland, but it could also be a community market. We could activate the space year round. It could even be a holiday market. We want the city to allow us to have that community vision session and have a guarantee that they will at least give us permission to pursue these avenues.
Laura, what would you like to see there? I mean, those things, those sound wonderful.
I don't know. It's a very odd space, but it's
About how
vacant.
large is it? Do we know?
It's about the width of a apartment building, and it's about as
Right,
deep
it's
as well.
big as your
Okay,
building,
go ahead.
right.
So finish.
But
that
you
thought.
know, I don't have an idea. But with this visioning session, you get 50 people who have ideas.
There must be, Laura, there must be something very exciting to be part of kind of a new group of people. I mean, you have 15 board
Yes.
members. How many of them are new?
15 new
All
board members.
15
No,
new
40
new-
altogether.
40
and
altogether.
15 new.
And so there must be something very, very exciting to be part of a group like that where
It's very exciting.
really, really?
Yes, it's-
You know, I sit across the table from people every week, and I can sometimes gauge you. It seems like you feel like there's really something special.
Yeah,
going on.
absolutely. And I hope it's not because I'm just so new and naive.
to
You know?
find out that you're going to get knocked down.
Yeah,
is, oh
exactly.
goodness, I hope not.
But I personally I like to make things happen. So we're going to you think about it and you make it happen.
You know, I want to, before we get into the Bronx River Arts Center, which we're going to do, I guess, exclusively since nobody else has done it, I want to just commend Laura. You and many people in the Bronx know about this. You are the person that started BX200, right? So for folks who've never been to bx200.com, tell us what bx200.com
Okay,
is.
so it's a website that has 200 portfolios of professional Bronx artists, visual artists. So there are 6 photos.
Let me just add, if folks in the control room can call, I know I didn't tell them ahead of time, if you call up bx200.com and just throw the homepage on the screen, that'd be nice.
So you can see artwork and you can contact the artist as well. It has their email, their websites, and basically it's to let people know that there's a lot of art in the Bronx.
Why did you put that together?
well,
because that takes some work.
It took a whole lot of work. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I was here for.
Try not to say that.
I
too
know,
much.
I'm sorry. But I was here in the Bronx for 12 years, and I really didn't know any other artists. I really didn't know anybody, actually. And I was like, where are the artists? And the Bronx Documentary Project, they were they were working on that project, and there was a list of artists, an email list, so I was able to access that. I'm also an artist in that project.
And so this really has given artists a place to land.
Yeah, I hope
Right.
so. And we do professional development workshops, we do exhibitions, different things.
All right, now what
It's community building.
That's what we're doing here tonight.
Right.
Let's talk about the Bronx River Arts Center. It has been out of commission for a little while.
Well,
which
out
is-
of the building,
out of the
but
building, yeah.
she has, there's still been programming back on the block. John has been very generous in letting us use the Community Board 6 offices for
some of those
pop-up
things.
classes.
We're showing right now some of the space.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about what we're getting. We're getting
I'm
a
getting
new.
chills.
It's exciting,
It's
right?
very exciting. This room will be for computers, for children primarily. So
Folks, just keep
Computer
throwing up
labs.
pictures. And what other things will we?
okay,
be
so
able
we've
to
got
see?
our beautiful gallery. We have a mixed-use space that will have a theater. We have a beautiful garden. We have co-working space where people can rent tables for office work. We have a conference room. We have a floor of artist studios.
And
I'm not
there's-
done. We have
'cause
printmaking.
we're showing pictures of the
well, this is
roof.
the green roof. This is the look at this roof. It's beautiful.
And what's going to be up there on that roof?
Cocktail parties, fundraisers.
Really? So you can have activities there.
Exactly.
Is there an environmental component to that green roof? I'd like to think.
Yes. The whole building, I would think, is green.
John, you want to?
It's from what I understand, I think the building is LEED Platinum, which is the highest.
Yes, of course.
And I think the garden, the rainwater goes through the roof, and it's a sustainable
Well,
building.
There's a picture of it. God, that is just going to be incredibly
been?
beautiful.
Have you been there?
Well, what I can tell you, what that does, it cools the building, and so once you start at that level, then on a hot summer day, you need less air conditioning and all the other things that environmentalists know more about than I do. So when do we expect this to open? Who knows that? Do you know?
January.
Okay. And this,
But we have classes.
right, and I know the folks in our control room who I've been beating up all day today about all this stuff. Let's put up when there's a whole series of
Yes.
classes starting right now.
No,
right?
well, starting
Well,
October 14.
Well, that's what I
You
mean.
can go to the website bronxriverart.org and you can register there. We have painting, printmaking, photography, collage, all kinds of classes. 2 sessions every Saturday between October 14 and December 9.
Right.
And
And
if-
we're listing some of those on the screen right now.
And if you go to our site, you could sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you information.
do you
or
need
you
to
can
be in
register.
Community Board 6 in order
Oh,
to
no way.
participate? I knew
Anybody.
the answer to that. I just asked
Anybody
it.
can participate.
Yeah.
Right.
John, what is the effect of a facility like this on a community, and the fact that you're going to have this incredible facility?
It shows people that the Bronx is a neighborhood they can live in and want to live in. I think the role of government and community boards is to make the neighborhood a better place so that when people graduate college, that they want to come back and return to their community. This is a state-of-the-art facility. This is unprecedented in our neighborhood, and it needs to get the attention it deserves citywide.
And we need to collectively shout out to my longtime friend Gail Nathan, who has been a visionary and has been, boy, nose to the grindstone to make sure that these things happen in the Bronx, and certainly taking care of all the kids and all the artists and everything else, right? So, Gail, if you're watching,
Shout out to Gail.
shout out to you. So I don't want to say the last thing because we could, as I said to you, we're doing a 4-hour show tonight of all the things you got going on. But we only have a moment. Introduce this video that I found on your website. And you got to go to the community, just Google Community Board 6 and see all the cool stuff they have. What is this mural project? We're going to show this really great video.
So another part of the community board is to
Take
work.
about 15 seconds to do it.
Another part of the community board is to work with city agencies. We work with the Department of Health, VIP Community Services to get a mural installed in a local school. We helped them find CS211, and the community painted the mural. Then it was affixed on the wall.
And it also was people who have mental issues
Yes.
and other disabilities.
Yeah.
They painted the mural.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, this is really what we need in the BX. Let's take a look. This is from Community Board 6.
Acceptance is such a big part of the process. We need to educate the community at large more about what defines mental health.
Everybody needs a second chance or even a third chance. Everybody don't get it the first time or the second time, you know?
I looked within myself, noticed some problems that I had, and decided to change them.
With art, I use it as a therapeutic method. Keeps me calm, keeps me out of trouble.
Keeps me positive, keeps me motivated to do things right.
Helps my anger.
It's like a timeout, just to reflect.
It makes you free.
A lot of the participants had been through a lot in their own lives, and they really wished for future generations to have it better somehow. So that's how we came up with the title theme for the mural, which is planting the seeds for tomorrow. We had two groups that we worked with. We call them VIP1 and VIP2. VIP2, from the very beginning, their theme was, I like you the way you are. Every process that we went through, every art project that we came up with, it was consistently acceptance of who you are, the way you are. The other mural, which goes on a different elementary school, they wanted to express as much love as possible. They felt that was a key ingredient to mental wellness.
My favorite part of the mural is that it's going to be hanged up to the back, and many people are going to see it.
I think it's pretty cool. Everybody being involved, everybody doing it together.
We're putting it together like as a community, as a family.
It brings a lot of beauty to the neighborhoods. It brings people together to talk about it.
Increasingly, we understand mental health issues are ones that need to be addressed in a much broader stage, that everyone has a role to play.
It gives to the community an opening to know that it's okay to talk about it. It's not a taboo.
All of those things I think are so important so that we could eventually destigmatize mental health.
All right, so there's our applause. We only have a couple of people in the room, but we'll all applaud. This really tells a great story, and I think you're writing a great story down there at Community Board 6. Wrap it up by just an overview and an invitation for people who want to partner in this positive energy. Who do they call? What do they do?
Simple. If you want to partner with what we're doing, go to BronxCB6.org, go to opportunities. You can contact us, BronxCB6 at BronxCB6.org. We're always looking for interns, volunteers.
Ideas.
We're committed to doing the work, and we know it takes people to do that.
And I'm going to add that if you're in a different neighborhood and you say, well, that's not my community board, but I've got a piece of land, John's a really good guy. Call him and find out. Laura, what's next coming from you? You painting, you drawing? What are you doing? Real quick.
Yes, I'm painting. LauraJamesArt.com.
Okay. Or BX200.
Or BX200.com.
Hey, great. This is just the energy of the Bronx. This is what we want to talk about. John Sanchez, thank you so much. Laura, thank you.
Thank you.
And folks, if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at BronxTalk@BronxNet.org. You can send us a tweet at BronxTalk or post them on our Facebook page, and we do read them on the air during future editions of our program. You can check out our archives at BronxNet.org. You can find Bronx Talk by following the Watch menu on the new BronxNet website. Thanks to our producer, Lindsay Violet, and our new regular director is William Guzman, and we will see you next week.